Hello and welcome to today's video. In this video, I'm going to be covering Amazon's product title requirements and specifically what not to do with your Amazon product title in order to avoid any issues of getting your listing suppressed or any other issues that you could have with your listing or your title. It's going to be fairly simple. However, Amazon has a lot of rules that a lot of people aren't aware of because they're not very good, in my opinion, of really relaying this information to sellers. So what I've done right here is I'm here at the source. This is Amazon's official product title requirements. And there's a few things that need to be explained, so I'll try to kind of run through this as quickly as possible. I will link this exact page in the description section as well as the comment section below, so you can find this for reference, and it'd be good to look for yourself. And also just keep in mind, if you're watching this video pretty far after the post date, things may update or change with time, so keep that in mind. And this will be kind of the go-to source, but there's a couple things I want to describe here that may not be intuitive just reading off the page itself. So first, all right, 4 important points. So number 1, titles must follow recommended length for your product category. It used to be the fact that every kind of product that you would sell on Amazon or every listing would have the same number of characters to be used. And relatively recently, Amazon has changed this to where certain product categories will have certain character limits for your title, okay? So most of our products that we sell have a 200 character limit, but we also have some products that have an 80 character limit, and I've heard of other sellers that have somewhere around maybe 100 or 150 character limit. So what you want to make sure that you do before you start, optimizing and creating your title is you need to know how many characters you're able to use and stay within that character limit for your specific category. To find this information, just so it's not confusing, and it'll depend again on your specific category and product, is on this page that I've linked below. You can go ahead and click on category specific style guides, click on this link, and this should take you and show you the specific kind of title character limit as well as some other requirements for your listing for your specific category. So that's number 1. Number 2, another really easy and definitive way to see is if you've already created your listing or you're in the process, what you can do is log into your Amazon Seller Central account, click on Manage Inventory for the particular product that you want to edit, and then under, I believe, Key Product Features, under kind of the title section, you will see the kind of character limit. And Amazon should tell you right there when you go to kind of click on Edit, Manage Inventory, and then edit a specific listing. You should be able to kind of see that right there as well. So both places you can kind of see, though, as I found as of right now, most categories I've seen from other sellers as well as myself around 200, though that can change. So that's just number 1. Number 2, titles cannot contain promotional phrases such as free shipping, 100% quality guaranteed, new. I know a lot of sellers who are like, hey, I don't have any reviews, so maybe I'll put, brand new or hot new item in my title. That is against Amazon's terms of service, and I know of sellers who have had their listings suppressed, meaning basically their listings aren't visible in search results because they have included these type of terms. So you want to avoid these terms, focus specifically on the product and describing the product, including your product keywords in the title, and not using these promotional type of phrases. Number 3, titles cannot contain characters for decoration, and specifically these characters, okay? Which I've highlighted kind of right here. You can go through and look at this yourself. I used to use this character specifically in my titles a lot because it made it kind of look a little bit nicer, organize the information a little bit better. However, I've stopped using this as well as using any of these characters here. And if we scroll down the page just a little bit, you can actually see though that you are able to, titles can include punctuation including hyphens, forward slashes, commas, ampersands, and periods. I always say like the and symbol. So for my listing specifically, I use the and symbol or the ampersand as well as the comma for my listing. And as you can see from Amazon themselves, as well as the dash. So the dash here, or hyphen, comma, and ampersand. I use all 3 of these in my own listing. And as you can see right here from Amazon themselves, you are able to. So a lot of people have questions about that. These are the characters you're able to use. Where we go back up here, these specific characters you're not able to use. Also, $, copyright, or trademark symbol, you're also not allowed to use in your title. I get that question a lot, so that's also something else to keep in mind. Okay, and then number 4 here in just the first section is titles must contain product identifying information such as hiking boots. So if you're selling hiking boots, put hiking boots in your title. Selling an umbrella, put umbrella in your title. That's naturally going to be the case, but of course, just make sure you do that. Pretty straightforward. So that's the top 4. But that's not all the requirements. And a lot of people will just read these four and then skip over and they're done. But if we kind of scroll down here a little bit more, all right, there's actually two more little sections here of other things that recommendations of what you should do as well as what not to do with your Amazon product title. So number one, title should be concise. So Amazon generally recommends fewer than 80 characters for all titles. Even if your character limit is 200, Amazon right here is recommending less than 80 characters. I've tested this with my own products of kind of keeping shorter titles. And basically, the shorter your title is, the less room that you have for including very important keywords. And your title, at least as of right now, is the most important section in your entire Amazon listing for keyword optimization. This is based on my own research, based on my own testing with my own products. So personally, what I recommend is different from what Amazon recommends because I found very different results. Is if you have 200 characters, to at least when you're starting out and creating a brand new listing, to maximize that space that's available to you. It's kind of like if you're going to sell in a retail store and the retail store says, hey, you have this entire shelf space that you can put your products, and you only put your products in half of the shelf instead of the full shelf. Generally, if they're giving you the real estate to use, kind of that digital real estate, I recommend utilizing it. So if they give you 80 characters, max out the 80 characters or at least get close to it. Another recommendation here as well, just another tip, is if you're kind of thinking what's the right kind of character limit for because I don't want to max it out, but I also don't want to use 80 characters. I want to kind of be somewhere in the middle. What you can do is analyze your top competitors or the top sellers in your category and look at the average character length of the top 5 to top 10 sellers. And you may find that it really hovers around a really specific range, maybe let's say 160 characters. Then maybe if you find that for whatever reason 160 character titles are performing really well for your category, then utilize that and kind of rely on that, assuming that you have 160 characters that you can use. So just some perspective. Amazon, in a lot of cases, isn't always right. It's also true with Amazon PPC. Whole other story, but Amazon doesn't always recommend what's best for your listing, even though they say so. If they say don't do this, then don't. But if they give you recommendations for, hey, here's what we think you should do, take it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Next, don't use all caps. There is an exception here. If you've trademarked your brand in all caps, I have found that Amazon not only has no problem, but would actually encourage you to use your brand name in your title. And we'll get to that in just 1 second. So that's the only exception. Otherwise, stay away from using all caps. Even if your brand is in all caps, personally, what I've done is just kind of contacting Amazon to make sure that everything's okay. Have a rep look over my listing and just explain, hey, I know Amazon says, not to use all caps. I've trademarked my brand in all caps. So, and you want me to use brand in my listing. So, making sure this is okay. Just something to consider. Not a big deal though. Next, capitalize the first letter of each word except for prepositions. So in this case, if this was our title right here, let's just pretend this is our title, then we capitalize C, F, L, E, and W. Just capitalizing the first letter of each word except for, prepositions like in, on, over, with, and, or, for, etc. Right? Pretty straightforward there. Just making your title pop a little bit more. Use numerals. Amazon recommends using the number 2 instead of the word 2. Personally, in my experience and my recommendation, not just with your title, but your listing overall, you'll want to use both numbers and words because when people go to Amazon to search for your product, there's some people that are going to type in the full word, and there's some people that are going to type in the number. So you want to have both the word and the number if that's relevant, obviously, to your listing. Like if it's 2 inches by 2 inches, you want 2 by 2 as well as the number 2 by the number 2, the word and the number. Okay, so that's what I recommend. Again, don't use non-language ASCII characters. Just other obscure characters. Again, restricted trademark, TM, copyright, etc. You cannot use those in your title. So you can include the letters, but you can't use those kind of specific, those unique kind of characters or emojis or things like that. Next, titles should contain minimal information needed to identify the item and nothing more. Just describing the product, straightforward. Don't use subjective commentary, which we already covered. You can include things like new item, hot item, bestseller, etc. for obvious reasons. So just make sure if you have that in your title, I would remove it now before you face any issues, and don't consider adding that. And it's also you want to make sure that your title is keyword heavy. Again, it's the most important place for keywords. So focus on your product keywords and not these other kind of obscure words. We already covered this is the punctuation that you can use, so you can look back at this and of course reference this in case anything changes. Titles can abbreviate measurements such as centimeter, ounces, inches, etc. Again, I like to have both the abbreviation and the kind of full spelled out measurement somewhere, not necessarily in my title, but somewhere in my listing. So maybe my title will have OZ, and somewhere else in my listing, either my back end or in my bullet points, I'll have ounce or ounces written out fully. Don't include your merchant name in the titles, and I believe merchant name by Amazon's standards are your manufacturer's name. You do want to make sure that you include your brand name at the beginning of your title. This is what Amazon recommends, and just as kind of for reference to see if this is, this is true, you can look at your top competitors on Amazon, look at their listings or the top sellers in your space. As of right now, there's a good likelihood that the majority of the sellers in your space or the best sellers have their brand name right at the beginning of their title. So not the merchant name, but having your brand name. So again, I think by merchant, it's not your brand name, it's your manufacturer's name or something like that. But you do want to have your brand name. Okay, so that's just some clarification there. And then lastly, size and color variations should include. So if you have variation, so let's say you're selling mugs and you're selling green mugs, purple mugs, green mugs, or maybe in this case you're selling Crocs. You'll have your parent ASIN, and then you'll have your child ASINs underneath that. Each child ASIN represents a different variation, so a different color maybe. So your parent title could be something like this. Again, super short, but Crocs Beach Clog. And then your child could be, Crocs Beach Clog, lime green, men's size 8 through 9. Your next variation would be Crocs Beach Clog, sky blue, men's size 8 through 9, etc. Okay, so just that including those unique identifiers would be in your child variations. And for me personally, within my kind of child variation titles, I like to see 80% keyword overlap. So most of my titles are fairly similar, but then 20% of the title is different for each variation. And that's usually because, different colors, different sizes, for different, maybe gender or whatever else it might be, design. That's usually where it comes from, but there's a lot of keyword overlap, but there's about 20% uniqueness in my child variation titles. All right, and that's right in line with Amazon's policy right here, okay? So this is stage 2. Again, people get to stage 2, they're like, okay, great, done. There's one last section, I promise. I know it's kind of a lot and it's kind of messy. Amazon doesn't do a very good job of organizing this. But lastly, we have the FAQ section, which is really great. So very frequently asked questions in the Amazon seller community about titles, which we'll run through just really quick right here at the end. So is title the same thing as product name? When you go to kind of edit your inventory, your inventory is kind of listing, you'll see product name and title, they're the same thing. Okay, so yes, they're the same thing. Again, you don't want to include any prohibited marks, copyright, trademark, explanation, etc. Otherwise, you can have your listing suppressed, meaning that your listing won't be visible in search results. Not guaranteed, but you don't want to play with fire. And it's really, there's no real big benefit, but there is a big loss. So recommend not doing that. So does Amazon automatically put a brand name at the start of my title? Do I need to do this myself? We recommend that you begin a title with the product's brand name. Okay, so Amazon recommends this. I also recommend this. I used to not, but now I found that top performers in our space, especially if you want to build a legitimate brand on and outside of Amazon, you definitely want that brand recognition, and people are going to be going to Amazon searching for your brand, specifically over your competitors. So you definitely want to make sure you include your brand name right at the beginning of your title. If your product does not have a brand name, Amazon suggests entering the word generic. I don't sell anything outside of private label. They're all my own brand. So, I always have, and I would recommend selling, if you have your own products, that you would have obviously your own brand. In terms of resellers, I don't really know the rules or in that whole area anyway, just kind of private label. So I never include the word generic in my titles for that reason. Are sellers notified in advance if their listing will be suppressed? No, they're not. Typical. If you're selling Amazon, you know this to be true. Amazon will just send you an email and saying, hey, you violated our rules. Here's the consequence, and you have to kind of figure that out. So you want to make sure, again, that you're reading the rules for everything. Bullet points, title, description, what you can and can't do. If you think there's a gray area, do your research, because Amazon doesn't kind of force you to go through a training when you're an Amazon seller. They just kind of, you kind of just watch YouTube videos, take an online course or whatever, and then start selling. And a lot of times, a lot of people will leave out this information, or information will change. So you want to make sure that you're always reading the manual before you're selling on a platform. That goes for any platform you're selling on. So obviously that's just a good general rule. Read the rules and go look for the rules first. They're not going to come to you. You have to go to them. And because Amazon's not going to notify you. And then how do I know if my listing has been suppressed? Well, you'll notice because your sales will drop. But you'll also notice, or you'll know that you're suppressed if you go back to log in your Seller Central account, click on Manage Inventory, And you'll see for a specific listing or the listings that are kind of violating Amazon's terms, you'll see the word suppressed right there in the listing, and then you'll have to kind of contact support and get that kind of resolved. What if another seller's title violates the title requirements and cause a product that I'm selling to become unsearchable? You need to contact Amazon seller support. I have a full video on the best way to contact Amazon seller support on the channel. So if you need that, let me know. And if you can't find it, let me know in the comments and I'll send you that. But pretty straightforward. Do brand registered products have the same title requirements? Yes. Are title requirements the same for Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA, and Seller Fulfilled Prime? Yes, title requirements are the same across. So if you're watching this in any of these kind of areas, it's all the same across. Are model numbers recommended in titles? Not really as familiar with model numbers, but if this makes sense for your category, you'll have to refer to your category style guide. Again, category style guide, where can you find that? In this link. Here you go. Category specific style guides right there near the top. That's where you can find that information for your specific product category. And then lastly, I promise, why don't title requirements apply to media products? We don't want to prohibit characters that might legitimately be part of a media's product title. Again, I don't have as much familiarity with selling media. And if that's something, that you do and have more questions about, let me know. I can kind of do more research into that. But I know the majority of people watching this aren't selling media products, so not as big. But you can kind of learn more, again, in probably the category guide as well. That's a good kind of go-to guide that I already kind of showed you linked at the top of this page. And that covers what not to do with your Amazon product title. And if you'd like to know the best way and the exact formula that I use to optimize my Amazon product titles to maximize visibility and ultimately sales, the video for that will be linked in the description section below as well. And I hope you found the video helpful. If you'd like to see other videos like this, covering some topics that a lot of other kind of Amazon sellers aren't talking about, as well as case studies, in-depth tutorials, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you did like the video, which I hope that you did, let me know by giving the video a thumbs up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and be sure to join our Amazon Seller Facebook group. Link, of course, will also be in the description section, and we look forward to seeing you in future videos.